Hey there, Jeff Manchester, Manchester Music. Welcome. Can't believe I'm saying this, but here it goes. Soundtoys has a new plugin. Yeah. I think the last time they released anything was like maybe 5 years ago, which in music technology years is like 50. I made videos about this. If anyone wants to watch it, it's old news now, but I was really wondering where this company was in terms of its output and presence. It was making a lot of social posts, but not a lot of plugins. Well, today that changed with Super Plate, which is right here. This is what it looks like. I got my hands on it recently. I actually paid for it. This video isn't being sponsored. It was at a really good price because I have the effects rack, so that was really nice. Before I get into it, please like, subscribe, hit the bell to get notified when new videos come out, and also, just so you know, I have a Patreon if you want to support the channel, and I also have an affiliate link in my description, so anything you buy, I get a kickback, and we can keep the channel nice and independent. Into the video now. This is Super Plate. I believe there was like a Plate Junior, which is very Soundtoys. They have like a mini or a little, and then eventually comes the big version. And this is the big version of the little Plate, which came out some time ago. And what they've done is they've put together 5 different algorithms: Classic 140, Gold Foil 240, Auto-Decay, E-Plate 3, and Stocktronics all in one tool. And you can just select the algorithm that you want. You also have a number of different preamps. This is tube. We also have solid state and clean, which is nice. Our decay is over here. We have pre-delay modulation, the filtering, classic Soundtoys input, output, a mix, dry and wet. And if I click this little tweak, boom, more options show up where we have the opportunity to protect some of the dry signal with an EQ from the reverb, modulation rate, this fancy new Auto-Decay, which I'll talk more about as I get into it, and also a little stereo width and balance section right here. I can bring this partition up by clicking right there. So this video isn't like a why is everyone obsessed with, nor is it a full-fledged review. This is a new tool and I really wanted to make a video on it, get my hands on it. And I've been playing with it for a couple of days and I have a lot of thoughts, and some of them are frankly complicated, but that's why I wanted to make this video. Now, let's be honest. Probably we only know about this classic EMT 140, right? Maybe some of us know about the 240, but I hadn't heard about Stocktronics or Plate 3 or Auto-Decay. It's cool that they're in here, and because it's Soundtoys, I trust that they were all modeled and sampled with a high degree of professionalism and, focus. So that's really cool. But when I saw these extra guys here, I was like, but hey, I have some extra plates, and plates are always all the rage, so that's cool. Let's have a listen. I'm going to take the EQ off here, which I can do by just hitting that. Let's have a listen to the various algorithms. Folks who saw my Stop Struggling with Reverb video, you're going to be familiar with the session, a bunch of dry stuff, which is great. Let's go through the different algorithms with the EQ off so we can just hear things. We'll leave the decay at about 8. Put it there. I'm on a bus. It's not on an insert level, and I have a dry vocal, which sounds like this before.
I never saw it coming.
Okay, so let's hear 140. I've left my preamp here at clean. So we have a nice, natural, unadulterated reverb sound, starting with the classic EMT 140.
I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming.
Okay, Gold Foil 240.
I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming.
Next one. Auto-Decay.
I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming.
E, plate 3.
I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming.
Stonk. Stocktronics.
I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming.
So hopefully that gives you a flavor and a vibe for the different algorithms. Personally, I was really impressed with the E-Plate 3 and their, modeling of an EMT Classic 140. So I'm going to leave it there for a little bit. As I mentioned, we have a couple different preamps here. The tube and the solid state will impart different kind of coloration and compression vibes to it, which is very cool. I prefer to leave things right over here for my reverb work. But what I want to do now is just go in and use this tool to tailor the reverb sound as I like it. And then what I'll do is explore this Auto-Decay feature, which I have a lot of thoughts on. So let's start there. I'm just going to play the audio in full, and I'll use the controls afforded to me in the Super Plate to get a sound that I like.
I never saw it coming. 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 I never saw it coming.
Cool. So pretty easy if you know what you're after to get a sound that works for what you're doing. Let's take a moment to explore this Auto-Decay feature, which at first glance I was mega confused about, because usually when you have ducking ballistics in a plugin with reverb on it, it's just going to duck the reverb. So it's lowering the volume of the reverb. Not in the case of Super Plate. They have a different targeting system which lets you duck the reverb, but instead of volume, you can duck it by adjusting the decay time. So let's see how this works. I can first set my threshold to a point where the dry signal is triggering the decay over here with this little potentiometer. Then I can set, it's very, very small and I can't really do anything to resize this. I can set the target I want my reverb tail to decay to. So right now, the master up here is about 16, let's say, but I want it to decay. It's so small, guys. I don't know why it's so small and I can't resize it, but it's just a copy, right, of this main knob here. So I think let's have it decay to 2, okay? So from 16 to 2. And I can also affect the rate of recovery, so how quickly the bloom comes back to, I guess, 16 from 2 in 1 millisecond, or I think this is half a second. So 1 millisecond super quick, half a second is obviously a little bit slower. So let's hear that in action. I'm going to solo the vocal.
I never saw it coming.
So with the threshold off, I'm not triggering anything.
I never saw it coming.
So I'll dial this back.
I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming.
So it's very clever, the metering here. This little yellow trace, which is nice and consistent with the color of the preamp and EQ graph here, will show you how quickly the decay is going from 16 to 2, our target. And you can change how quickly it bounces over there with the recovery and with the threshold, which is kind of cool. So first I was really confused about how all this worked, and then it's like, oh, it's actually very, very simple.
I never saw it coming.
So with my recovery at 1 millisecond,
I never saw
it's really ducking it very quickly. Ducking it, it's bringing it to 2 seconds very quickly.
I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming.
So by setting the recovery to a slower value, it takes the reverb a little, it changes the time constant for the reverb to kind of come back up. So that's kind of nice that you have that level of control. And of course, there's modulation, which I didn't really talk about because to me, modulation isn't really something I do with reverb. It's going to maybe add some pitch shifting. I like a nice colorless, clean reverb sound. So I usually leave modulation alone, but it's there if you need it. I also really like how we have these per octave slope controls, just really nice and unobtrusive. If I click away, they disappear. If I click, they show up. It's really nice to have gentle filter slopes when you're high passing or low passing. And I don't think we're afforded any real control over the Q of these two nodes right here. So that's Auto-Decay. And really that's the tool. This is the thing that if you watch the marketing, they've been thinking about and developing for, I think they said 7 years, which is I don't know, to me, that's a really long time. But hey, Soundtoys has a plugin, I'll buy it. I'm happy that it's out. A couple of thoughts on this system. I want to first start with the Auto-Decay. I would like some power button similar to this over Auto-Decay so I can turn this on and off really quickly instead of having to go to the threshold and go like this to turn it off. I don't know if one such power button exists, but I couldn't find it. Also, these values are just very, very small. I'm a one monitor person, so I don't have this up somewhere on a big blow up kind of wall TV screen or whatever. It's kind of here, and these values are a little small to see. Just maybe I'm getting older, but that's something I wanted to mention. Now, the plates all sound wonderful. They're easy to control, and I personally feel very at home with the Soundtoys UI and UX. It's nice and consistent. If I were to have this in an effects rack, it'd be great because everything is consistent. Input, output, wet, dry, wonderful. I have to say though, I'm a little skeptical about this Auto-Decay system, and here's why. When I dial in my reverb sound, that's my reverb sound, and if I want it to duck, I want it to duck in volume. However, what you're doing when you control Auto-Decay like this is you're basically changing the size of the room, the tone of the room. When you change decay, it's not just time you're changing. By bringing this potentiometer to slower or, shorter values, 1 second, 2 seconds, 4 seconds, 0.5 seconds, you're playing with time, but you're also playing with sound design. A quicker decay changes the room. It just changes the room sound as opposed to a longer decay. And I should also say we have this infinite thing, which is kind of cool and good for like sound beds and sound design. If you just want like this long soundscape running underneath the track, you can go ahead and print that. But when we play with time, we play with sound design with decay. I'm not sure that I want my ducking to alter the sound, right? Even though we're playing with time, like I said, these have implications, these time values for the sound of the reverb. So I'm not sure why they did this. I suppose they did it because they wanted this to be different from other plugins. And hey, we have ducking, but it's different kind of ducking. I don't know if I like what I'm hearing. I don't know that I like that as I try to get my reverb out of the way of my dry signal, I change its tone, even if it's a little quieter. I don't know if it results in a more musical ducking effect. And I found myself kind of preferring to go to plugins or setting up my own compression system, which, I can just use to sidechain the reverb unit every time the dry signal is present. It could be that after some time, once I really play around with this, I can get used to it and learn to live with it and enjoy it. But I don't know right away if I think this is a great idea. Beyond that, I think the value is incredible. I love this output EQ that it's built in like this. I think it's a worthy addition to the Soundtoys lineup, but I do have some reservations about some of the key competitive advantages that Superplate offers in the marketplace. So those are my initial thoughts. You can agree, you can disagree. Either way, I do want to know kind of which way you fall. So please leave a comment, and thank you so much for watching. And thanks, Soundtoys. It's good to have you back. Welcome back.